Good morning, friends, and welcome to the Dulcimer Crossing live stream for Wednesday. Today, we're going to follow up on last week's conversation where we started looking at how do I find the songs I know on my instrument. In that case, we were looking at songs that were in a major key, and we did comparing between the marked and unmarked courses on a hammered dulcimer and the different frets on a mountain dulcimer. But today we're going to look at the minor version of that. Now let me get over into Facebook and make sure that I'm in the right place so that I can see any comments and respond to those. There we go. It's working. I love when that happens. So I want to start on the hammered dulcimer today. I've been starting on the mountain dulcimer, and I want to start over here. So let's take a look. You'll notice that we have these marked courses, which are the light ones on my instrument. So on some instruments, the marked courses are the dark ones. But the ones that are called the marked ones are the ones that are different from the rest and stand out by themselves. So I have white, black, black, white, black, black, white, black, black, white, black, black, white. That pattern is begun by the marked one, which is the white one. If I go from a mark to an unmarked, I've got a whole step. When I go from an unmarked to an unmarked, I've got a whole step. When I go from an unmarked to a mark, I've got a half step. And that is the case everywhere on the instrument. And when I go from a mark to a mark crossing over the bridge, like an upside down N or a sideways Z, that's a whole step between those. So in every scale that we have in the diatonic world, we have wholes and half steps, but there's only two half steps in the scale. And in a major scale, the half steps are between the third and the fourth step, and the seventh and the eighth step. And on the hammer dulcimer, that's how they're preserved. So last week, we were talking about how do I find songs starting at do, starting at mi, starting at sol, or do at the top, as a way of finding the songs I want to play. What's interesting about the diatonic layout of the hammer dulcimer is all I have to do is change where I start. So if I start on an unmarked course and go walk up, now I've got a whole step, and then I've got a half step that's happening sooner than would have happened before. So when I go from, in this case, it's the note E to G, that is a minor third. And when I play the other note in the chord, E, G, B, I've got whole step, half step. I've got whole step, and then the whole step, and then a half step to there. So in this particular scale, I'm playing in the box. When I do it this way, I've changed what my first big interval of the third is, and that's what determines whether it's a major or minor scale. When we say it's major or minor, it has to do with what's happening with the third. Now, let's look at this for a minute. When I go from a D to an A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's called an interval of a fifth, a perfect fifth. And when I go to my F sharp, I've got a third, which is a major third, and then the fifth. And that makes a major chord. Now, let's move from here to the bass bridge. Yeah, you can see good. From the bass bridge, and when I start on a D, I'm on a D. It's the same exact pitch. It's a different location, and because it's an unmarked course, when I go up to get my third, I get that same kind of minor scale that I got when I was starting one above a mark over here. It's the same everywhere in the instrument. One above a mark will always give you that scale. But when I just pick the first, the third, it's a minor third. So that's the F natural, because from E to F there's no half step between them. And this is just one example of where this can be demonstrated. That would be called D major. This is the parallel minor. And the only difference between these two is this note. And there are some beautiful carols. I think Erin May taught one to her Mountain Dulcimer Advent class last week. That is one of those unusual ones which starts in minor and has a major as the major third at the end. That's not typical of minor songs. But just laying it out, songs, if they're major or minor, this third step of the scale is what makes the difference in whether it's major or minor. There are more than one way to be minor. And generally, we say there's only one way to be major. It's not completely true. But if I play on the hammer dulcimer in the box, I've got the major scale that we looked at last week. If I play straight up, I've got the major third here, but I've got the flatted 7. And that's not considered, even though it is a major scale in the major world, that's not considered the major scale. That's considered a modal scale. It's the Mixolydian mode. These are all modal scales, but that one in shorthand, when players are talking to each other, say this is a modal tune. That's usually what they mean. Not exclusively, but usually. But when you hear the minor, there's the Dorian way of being minor. There's the Aeolian way of being minor. There's the harmonic way of being minor, which has... And now I have to have a C. I'm in E. So I have a raised 7th. Then there's the melodic way of being minor, which goes up one way and comes down another. So I always say minors are free-range critters compared to majors, but they're all here for us and all can be found on the hammer dulcimer. Now let's compare to the mountain dulcimer. Here's a mountain dulcimer that's tuned D-A-D or 158. I have a mountain dulcimer tuned 155 or D-A-A. That's the same in terms of what we're going to look at here. What matters here are the frets, the long and the short. This tells us it's a whole step from here to here, from 0 to 1. And this one that's really close to the nut is a 0 fret. Your instrument may or may not have that. But that's a whole step, half step. Whole step, half step. Now, that's because this instrument is different from the pure modal system because it has a 6.5 fret. It would normally be, let's compare, don't want to cloud the issue that much. Whole, half, whole, half, whole, half. So I've got wholes, half, 2 wholes, half, 3 wholes, half, 2 wholes, half, all the way up the instrument. And that's the Mixolydian scale when I start from 0 because of the way everything's lined out. But I've got this major third right here. 4, 5, 6, flat, 7, 8. If I start at the 3rd fret, I've got only the frets I need to play this major scale, which is the same as going from C to C on a piano. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the scale degrees, or frets 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with no half fret in the middle here. Now, if you have a question about that, feel free to ask your question. Or if it's making sense, or it's like, oh yeah, that's it. That's underscoring it. That's helpful. Now, what I want to show right now is that on a mountain dulcimer, well, let's go back, because this is the one that doesn't have the extra fret. It'll demonstrate it more clearly. When I start at 0, I get the Mixolydian scale. When I start at 1, now listen to this. That's a minor scale because 1, 2, flat, 3, I've got one whole step and then a half step instead of 2 whole steps to get to my third pitch. That determines that it's the Aeolian scale because it's got a flatted sixth. Now, that is the Aeolian scale that on the hammered dulcimer I started one above a mark and went straight up and down. That's what I'm doing here. If I would start on the 4th fret, you'll notice something. I've got that whole step and then half step again. Here is where I have the Dorian scale, which on the hammered dulcimer is like playing on a mark 1 or one above a mark in a box, so that I have the sharp 6. And I didn't retune in order to get these different things. I got a Mixolydian scale, I've got the Ionian scale, I got that modal scale, and the major scale I've got the Aeolian, which is called pure minor, and I've got the Dorian, which is another minor scale. And I didn't change anything. I didn't retune anything. Here's why we retune. Because the drones don't line up. When I'm playing on the hammer dulcimer, I don't retune because I'm not playing anything except the note I'm playing. I've got my hammers, I'm playing individual notes. Here, when I strum, I'm getting the notes, the drone notes, which are the ones that I'm not touching, but they're the ones that are ringing like a bagpipe. That's what the drones are. They just keep ringing while I change the melody against the drones. So the reason that we retune or do something is we want the drones to line up with the melody that we're playing. I didn't retune, so I didn't change what the pitch was going to vibrate at. I am just changing the drones to match. Typically, however, we don't retune the drones. We retune the melody string so that makes the drones that we had line up. And in a mountain dulcimer world where there are no 6.5 frets, I'm going to need to retune either to C Now, when I start at the 1st fret, I've got D, A, C. So my 1st fret brings it back to D, A, D. All of my drones are lining up to support the minor scale. And this is one place, the DAC scale, where I can play the harmonic minor. I need on that 'Twas in the Moon of Wintertime, I need that note there. But it's not part of what's going on here. So what I did was retune to DAC in order to play in D minor. That would have been the traditional way to do things. In DAD, I would relax these strings and loosen them to go down a whole step so that I would have that DAC sound. We already did it, so I'm not going to do that now. But what I'm going to do is do something that's just, the modern 20th century edition was the use of a capo. In Italy, it's called a capo. It means head. I've shortened the string. I've made the head of the instrument now shorter. This replaces the nut. But I'm starting my scale again at the first fret. I don't have that harmonic note anymore. I don't have that D sharp that I need for the harmonic scale, so I'm going to have to use a dulcimer workaround. So the harmonic minor and mountain dulcimers has less of a congenial relationship. And that's one of the reasons that people like chromatic instruments, because you have all those notes all the time. The difference is you have to skip things in order to get the notes you want. Instead of just playing the next fret, you have to skip a fret. Now, what this also means with my 6.5 fret here, if I go straight up, could play God Rest You Merry Gentlemen all the way up and down, but I use my 6 instead of my 6.5. But if I wanted to play Scarborough Fair, I need to use the 6.5 instead of the 6. So that this fret lets me have two modes for the price of one tuning. And when I'm in the capo, when I add the capo, it gives me these two minor ones. Now, the whole point of having this conversation is, how do we find the notes, the songs we know that are minor? Because most of us, when we start to be able to hear the tunes and put them on our instruments, we gain our competency in the major world and then get a little lost in the minor world. So one of the things you can do if you have a song that doesn't quite fit major and you wonder, I wonder if this one is really minor, put a capo on at the first fret and use your melody or your bass string, because they're E, B, E. Use either one of those as a way to say, I wonder if my scale is working here. There is a way without a capo if you don't have one. You can also do it on the middle string. It's B on the middle string. Now my drones are lining up as if they are the third or the minor third of the scale. B, C sharp, D. It doesn't have that same minory feel that the other one did, but it can work. So we always have, because the frets don't change, just like the markers on the hammer dulcimer don't change, the frets don't change position. So where I start will make the big difference. And it's possible to play in a instrument that's tuned DAD to play minor mode tunes without putting a capo on, without retuning. So So that tune in 3/4 is the Star of the County Down from Ireland. In 4/4, it's called Kingsfold as a hymn tune, and it's the setting for the Canticle of the Turning, which is a more modern setting of Mary's Magnificat song. But I didn't have to retune. I could just play out of B minor, which is the relative minor of D, which is what I expect I'm going to have. Now, that's a lot of music talk, right? That's a lot of theory language I'm throwing around. I am throwing it around accurately. I'm not just doing it. Each one of those little touch points of theory names helps me decode what I'm doing. But what you can take away, if you can't remember the names of what we're doing, is start at the first fret or start at the fourth fret. If you suspect the song you're playing is a minor-y kind of tune and you're having trouble trying to figure out where it is, start at the first fret or start at the fourth fret and try to play it all on the melody string. And I believe that you'll find more than you don't find. You may run into something where I get most everything, but I don't have that one note I was looking for, and that's okay. But that's how we find the songs we know in the minor world or the minor way. On our mountain dulcimers, we start at the first or the fourth fret. On the hammer dulcimer, we start one above a mark and either go in the box or the straight up and down pattern. Those are the two clues that I use. And when I'm listening to a song, and I can't quite tell, because there are some songs that are not really majory, not really minory. It's like, I don't know what this one is. And I wrote one like that on purpose. Called Blacktail Weasel and the Ground Squirrel Clan. It sounds sort of minory. Starts on a D, ends on a D. It's got an A droning. Never plays the F natural. So it's not minory. It's pentatonic, but it's ambiguous. There are songs like that too. Yeah, the confusion between those two. It's the first time I heard them, I thought that sounds very familiar. Why am I resonating with this so well? And it turns out it's because I know the tune a little bit different. So let's ask, are there some that you're still trying to figure out? Or one that you found and you might have used this or another way to find? Oh, that's what you did. You found out that. Well, that's why I know this one. Very good. I've had people recently tell me, like, this is the season for my Dulcimer Friendly Evening Prayer Service for Advent. So we had that last night. It's on Tuesdays. And let's see. Here's where, let me put this link. Here, and let me share my screen in case anybody has interest. This is still going on. I've got the daily devotions, which if you sign up here, you'll just join us where we are on the 7th of December. Musical devotions that come to your inbox. And then Dulcimer Friendly Evening Prayer, where you can register here. And then here's the booklets that you can download. Next week will be week 3. But we let's see, stop sharing. Good. We had some minor, or we start this one with the use of the capo for O Come, Come Emmanuel, which in terms of minor Christmas tunes or holiday tunes, yes, I understand. Signing up. The thing is, they are archived. If you can't be with us on Tuesday night because you have a conflict, they are archived on my Owl Mountain Music Facebook page, not the Dulcimer Crossing one, my Owl Mountain Music one. And you can always come and join us when the conflict is over, and they're archived there. So feel free to join us there, and you can download the worship bulletin so that you can join in with us. And Doug, so you know, I'm working on getting all those corrections to the Dulcimer Friendly Prayer service for the DAD version, and I'm going to send them to everybody that's been part of that class in the past. So keep your eyes open. I'm still working on that, polishing it. In the Bleak Midwinter is mostly in a major key, but it has minor supporting chords. You're very right about that. And the Holly and the Ivy is a nice major mode song as well. In my Dulcimer Friendly Advent book, which was the first Dulcimer book in the Advent series, there are several minor mode tunes there. Savior of the nations come. And I'm going to, in that book, they're in DAC tuning, but I'm going to, because I can just, I've already got an instrument in DAC tuning. How about that? I was doing that on my No Extra Frets. This is a Folk Roots kit that my first dulcimer, the one I built in 1980, starting at 1 with that whole step below Do, which is a characteristic of minor mode tunes. So that's one of them. There are several in minor mode tunes, and in my book, that's where I was using a hymnal, trying to figure out how to play them on a dulcimer, which is why it's called a Dulcimer Friendly series. And I wanted them so that my dad, who picked up dulcimer as the only instrument he ever really played in his life, I wanted him to be able to play the songs he knew. And I took our book of worship, our hymnal, and went through and figured out what tuning and what fret you would start on for every one of those. Noël Nouvelet, yes. A good French Christmas tune. The place I discovered, because my third volume in that series is Christmas in a Mellow Mode. All the tunes are minor mode tunes. So I went and recorded all the ones that nobody, and I arranged all the ones that nobody does on their recordings, or fewer people do. Alla Nanita Nana has minor and major. Benecantale, that's the harmonic minor. It's a Spanish one. Masters in this hall. It's an English words to a French tune. There's some couple of German ones that are minor mode too in the Christmas tradition, but in the Advent tradition, they Nun kommt der Heiland, um, Savior of the Nations Come is one of the minor ones. It's a German tune, so it's interesting. 'Twas in the Moon of Wintertime is a French tune written by a French priest in native language. It's the Huron Carol. It's the first oldest one written on this continent in English, or in French first and then English, um, using the images of the people that he was working with. So that's how you find, you may have different ways, but that's how I find what are the minor melodies I'm looking for. I start one above a mark on the hammer dulcimer and use a box or a straight up and down pattern. I start on the first or the fourth fret of the mountain dulcimer on any string, and I do it in a linear way first. I might work out the other ways later. I like to, actually. I probably will. But I start on the first fret or the fourth fret, and I just go straight up and down. The presence of the 6.5 fret can be an extra confusion and an extra gift. So just put it there. If you're confused by that, try one. And if that's not it, try the other one. Well, I do want to thank you for joining me today. And I want to call attention to, we have a special workshop coming up, not this week, but next week for Dulcimer Crossing. We are excited that Jessica Como will be here to look at medieval and ancient Christmas songs. And she's an elegant, wonderful teacher, elegant fingerstyle player of some very exquisite and delicate tunes. And when I first heard it, it's like, oh yeah, that's magic right there. In January, we are starting the new year with the chromatic dulcimer. If you don't play chromatic, you can still benefit from this, but that's coming up in the future. But further into the future, a month later, but next Thursday, it's Jessica Como. And this, if you're a workshop or a member, mentor level student, you have access to that automatically. If you are, a do-it-yourself member at Dulcimer Crossing, you can always upgrade just for that workshop. You're paying $25 already, you pay $25 more, and you get access to the workshop, and you can go back to being a do-it-yourself as soon as you're done. Or you can wait until it's time for the next renewal and change it. But while you are at the workshop level, you also get access to the entire archive of all of our live workshops. And that's building to be quite a resource. And let's see. Yes, coming up, I just want you to mark your calendars. Online concert thing. I will be doing a calling it Don't Lick the Iceberg concert on December 16th. It's a Friday night. And here's the picture. Would you do it? Would you lick the iceberg? You can see here, I haven't quite made up my mind if I'm going to do it or not. If you click on the link and look at the picture, it's from my artist in residency in Alaska in 2019. But there is that. The Sunday and Monday after that are the Quarantine concerts, featuring many, not all, but many of the teachers and performers that you've come to work with and know and love. I am not part of that, but it is taking place, and I want to let you know about it. I think that's all. If anybody else has something else that you want us to know about, please. I got to stop the sharing. There it is. Stop the sharing. Please let me know. And next week, Aaron May is going to be here, and we're going to do a team taught or a co-facilitated conversation with you. We are talking this morning about what that topic will be. So it'll be a surprise until we know. But for now, I want to thank you for joining me and wish you well as you find the tunes you want to play on your instrument in a minor mode. Bye.